Hey folks, Frank Zorrilla here, September 2nd, 3:48 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to go over tomorrow's list. Basically, a bunch of them, most of them are inside days. And as I put on the Twitter room, as I was going through the list, I noticed that there were a ton of semiconductors who printed an inside day. And I put alerts on all of them right over here. But when I saw that, the first thing I did was punch in SMH to see how it looked, right? Because it's a lot easier to play the triple ETF like SOX Long, SOXL, than each individual ETF name, right? So that's what I did. But let's go through the list. Most of these are inside days. Most of these are high price stock, which means that if they trigger because they're high price and the stops are so close that they're going to eat up a bulk of your account. As far as like for example, Akamai, if you put a stop right over here, which is about $2 away, it's going to be a nice 10 to 15% position if you risk a quarter of a percent of your capital. If you do 1%, it might take up your whole account. All right, so here's the list. Most of these are all inside days. I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible between now and the end of the year and focus for the most part, or at least 95%, on stocks that printed an inside day. And if for some reason I can't find enough names, then I'll go through the other stuff, to the other scans. But Akamai here, up 4% or greater on this day, on 3 times the average daily volume. It reported their numbers. $1.58 versus $1.53 was the consensus. Their FY24 year 2024, they see EPS of 634, between 634 and 647 versus 631, and they see their Q3 revenues between 988 million to a billion versus 996 million. Bottom line is the stock had a great reaction to numbers. It's been trading sideways. It printed an inside day right over here. High is 102.21, buy stop 102. 31, and the stop can be right over here at this low 162, or these high cap names, Russell 1000, QQQ, S&P 500 names, they tend to respect the 21-day moving average, which is this yellow line here. And as you can see, once we broke this average, this stock was basically 96 days below the average. Every time it touched the average, it sold off. It finally broke above. It held for a while. It came down, but then it went back above based on earnings. So here you can use this stop right over here as your stop, or if it goes, you can leave a piece on until it breaks the 21-day moving average. Basically the way I'm seeing the inside day based on this context is that I'm seeing a stock that had a nice move higher, and then it's been trading sideways since then. The inside day under this context means that the stock is pausing and it's ready for a second leg higher. The reason why we assume that the second leg is going to be higher is based on the first leg, which was higher. Okay, so that's that's how you have to view inside days. The context of the inside days what matters, because inside days can be nothing. It can be longs or it can be a short. MHK, very similar to Akamai, up on numbers. It came down. We got involved here the other day on A16 when they printed an inside day here on the lowest volume. Had an okay move higher, but here we are again, inside day. High here is 155.38, buy stop 155.48, stop is right over here 152. I mean, it's a $3 stop on the $155 stock, so this is going to eat up a lot of your capital. Light, again, numbers right over here. Numbers, from the view up top, they don't look great. They beat by 4 cents, but revenues fell 16%. They see Q1 revenues 315 to 355 versus 311, but the stock gapped up, held on to that gap, moved higher. Has been trading sideways for the last 5 days. You can see the contraction here, printed an inside day. I like the stock going through 57.79. Stop loss right over here at this low 56.54, 56.50. Once it breaks the inside day, they should be able to go, right? Because again, this is just to me, under this context, stock moves higher, goes sideways. This is a pause right here before a continuation higher. Okay. Now, if 14 names is too much, you can start narrowing down your list, because here we have another high cap name that should be testing, should be respecting the 21-day moving average. So sometimes you might feel that if you're buying a high cap name and you're being stopped out above the 21 day, that maybe you're choking the trade. So you can also take this off the list based on the fact that the 21 day is too far, right? Because it is a high cap name. So here's AMT, Real Estate Investment Trust. Real Estate Investment Trust, they've made a turn, right? Most of these stocks peaked right before they started to raise rates, which was right over here. December of 2021. This is when they said they were going to raise rates. They finally did it, I believe, in March. And those stocks, most of these stocks peaked right over here. Back in December of 2021, this 198, right? And then once they said we're going to cut rates, and the market started to actually believe it a little bit more, then they started to move higher. They're probably going to cut rates September 18th. I believe that is the date. So these stocks, all these REITs have been acting well. Okay. So this one printed an inside day. High is 225.68. Buy stop 10 cents above. And stop right over here, $221 a share, which also coincides with the 21-day moving average. And this one, you see it, I like it. Inside day, high price stock. You can say it's a little choppy, but here it printed an inside day, gets back above the 21-day moving average. 353.67 is the high. 10 cents above is the buy stop. Stop loss right over here at 345, which also coincides with the 21-day moving average. ZS, another software name, is exactly what we've been talking about. Had a nice move higher for whatever reason, right? Sideways for the last 7 days. Prints an inside day. Gets back above the 200-day moving average. $200.41 is the high. 10 cents above is the buy stop. Stop loss right over here, 197. Best case scenario tomorrow is that we open flat to lower. Okay, here's the QQQs. Like I said on the X room, the Twitter room, every time the market seems like they're going to hit it, like the floodgates are going to open, the floodgates to hell, they come back and buy it. Wednesday, Thursday, it looks like they wanted to open up the floodgates. Things look bad, and the video is falling, and then we have a day like Friday. And then you go from a kind of like a bearish looking chart, QQQ here, looking to break the 21-day moving average, to now we bounced off the 21-day moving average close near the highs, and it looks good. So QQQs, I like this one, 476.90, right above this high, only a penny for ETFs, not 10 cents. I'd rather go with the TQQs, bigger bang for your buck. Again, stop right over here at 470.51, which also coincides with, the 21-day moving average. VST, we went long right over here. This inside day had a nice 3-day move, 3-day pullback, sideways, inside day again. I like the stock 86.15. Stop loss right over here at 83.20. TSM, semiconductor name. I like this one. All right. Broke down, came right back up, sideways, inside day. The low here also coincides with the 21-day moving average. So buy stop is 10 cents above the Friday's highs. 172.33 is the buy stop. 168.75, 168. Give it to 168. That is your sell stop. Goldman Sachs. Again, you can argue this thing has done nothing at all. No net movement for the last 52 days, 1.32 days, 1.4 months. Prints an inside day. High here is 511.19. Again, we got to use the inside day as this is the pause. Be right before the continuation. That is the candle that tells you we're ready to move. It should move higher. So under these circumstances, if it break this low, then it was a fake out. Okay. So buy stop 511.29. Sell stop 505. TQQs, we already spoke about it. That's with the QQQs. Again, buy stop right over here, 68.87. Buy stop is only a penny above, 68.88. Sell stop a break of this low, 66.18. Call it $66 a share. You have to give it a little bit more room because of the decay factor on these triple ETFs. Ryan, it's an insurance company. You can take this off the list if you want. Slow mover. It's probably not going to move as fast as some of the tech stocks. But again, it printed an inside day. very tight candle on Friday. High 64.89. Buy stop 10 cents above. Stop loss right over here is 63.95, 63.90, which coincides with the 21-day moving average. SMH we spoke about. Bunch of semi names. They're printed an inside day. I put alerts on all of them, and what you can do is I might even buy the stock so in anticipation before it actually triggers. Let's say, for example, AMD printed an inside day. Let's say, for example, that AMD triggers, right? I might buy 100 shares of this before the SMH triggers. If TSM triggers, I might buy 100 shares of the SOXL before it actually triggers, based on the on these individual semiconductor stocks triggering. Now, also, what's probably going to happen, I am hoping for a flat opening or a down opening so I can put my orders in, right? I don't want to chase these things and then you have to worry about whether we're going to get that reverse in the first 15 to 30 minutes. But either way, what's going to happen is I'm probably, the breadth numbers are back to positive, back above the 5-day moving average. What's going to happen is more than likely I'm going to put a buy stop order, buy stop limit across the board, right? Depending on where, if we gap up or gap down. And with Interactive Brokers, if your capital is tied up, then if you put your full size orders, what's going to happen is that they're going to be rejected. So what I normally do is I'll put 100 shares across the board. I'll put 100 shares of Akamai, and then right below that order, I'm going to put the balance. Let's say, for example, that base of what I'm willing to risk, what I should be buying is 2,000 shares. I'm going to put 100 shares. I'm going to put the buy stop in right below it. I'm going to have an order ready for 1,900 shares. So that way, when it triggers, I'm going to hit market on the other one. All right, and I'll do the same thing across the board. Put 100 shares across the board, put the balance of the order already ready, and then all I have to do is hit market, and that's it. So that's basically it. Again, the market looked horrible. We came back. More than likely, they're going to cut rates. I believe is on the 18th of September, which is interesting because the second half of September is seasonal-wise. Seasonal-wise, it's normally bearish. It's a weak second half of September is what normally happens. Then you have the rate cuts, which typically the first rate cuts are never bullish, they're bearish. And then I believe on September 18th is when the judge from New York decides whether to send Trump to jail or not. So all these things on that week, we might have the green light until then. And then all hell might break loose on the 18th. All right, so for now, we'll take it one day at a time, but that's, that second half of September is when we might pause a little, all right? So trade them well and be well.